stream/podcast. Today we have some very nice, cool things to go over. I am excited about today. So getting into it, we will be discussing healthy relationships and boundaries, specifically within the Bible. These are things that we can look at, we can study, um, and apply to our lives. So without further ado, let me get into it. Um, Also, I will be sticking mainly to ChatGPT and Bible.com for now, as Stream has been a little unstable recently. So yeah, this is what we will be working with for today. So what does the Bible say about healthy relationships? And I also got this really nice little highlighter tool. So the Bible provides numerous principles and guidelines for fostering healthy relationships, and here are some key teachings. Love and respect. Love one another. Jesus emphasized the importance of love in relationships. Quote, a new command I give you, semicolon, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. That was John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35. So that's very important. If we And that's really the hugest message of the Bible, for me at least, was I had to become familiar with all of it because I was also a person who needed, and I still do. I need evidence. I need truth. I can't just blindly put my faith into anything, right? Um, so through everything that I've learned from the Bible, um, it's taught me to love myself. And in doing so, I can love others. But it's a relationship not only with myself but with God. So, I got to keep working at it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So Jesus emphasized the importance of love in relationships, right? If you love yourself, you can't love anyone else if you don't love yourself, and that's just my belief. Um, and that's what I've come to believe. Uh, and a new command I give you: love one another. That's a command from Jesus. That's from God Himself. So yeah, we're just here to love one another, and that's something we really need to emphasize on within the Bible. Um, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Now, what he's really saying there is, as Jesus loved you, he wants you to love your brother, the same as Jesus loved you. Now, that's a lot to take in, especially if you don't know the guy or anything about him. This man from over 2,000 years ago, or 2,000, yeah. So there's a lot to build you up to that point, and that's something I want to do over this series. Um, if you don't already, so respect, treating others with respect is crucial. Quote: show proper respect to everyone, love the family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor. That was First Peter chapter 2, verse 17. So let me read it again. Treating others with respect is crucial. Treat your brother as you would yourself, right? You don't want some just random stranger, anybody in your life really, to be disrespectful to you for no reason. And if you're a respectful person, you kind of expect the same back. But in today's society, we can't expect anything good, from anybody, and that's just a sinful world we live in. God was here, if we, if we were in the perfect world, none of this would even be an issue or even probably be talked about. Because, yeah, it'd be perfect. So, yeah, we don't live in a perfect world, unfortunately. But we can do things to make it better. So that is a good start right there. Love and respect. Love one another and respect one another. Next is forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of God's biggest weapons, his ultimate weapons, mercy and forgiveness. The Bible teaches the importance of forgiveness in maintaining healthy relationships. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. That was Ephesians chapter 4:32. Um, yeah, I'll read these all twice. So, the Bible teaches the importance of forgiveness in maintaining healthy relationships. Um, if we didn't have any forgiveness in our relationships with each other, um, and I'm sure a lot of us already know, it leads to conflict, hostility, um, a lot of negative things that we'll be going over within the unhealthy relationships portion of this page. I have three different pages for us today. Um, one of them being some ancient Toltec knowledge. I really like some of their knowledge. I like all of it really. Um, I don't know if they believed in God or what they believed in, but as we go over what what it's about, I think it's really cool, and I think it's things we can apply, just like even within the Bible. I think it kind of, it's the same message. There's a lot of religions that really preach the same message, but there's different aspects of power and control, uh, and that's the issue with religion, at least in my opinion and beliefs, is no one, absolutely no one, has the perfect answers other than God. Um, and God's very specific with how he feels about certain things. All things we'll be going over. So yes, it is very, very important to have forgiveness in our relationships with each other. Um, I think there's been points where we've all messed up and the other person has messed up, and we could have had forgiveness for each other, but instead we chose conflict or grudges, and things that we weren't led up to understand how to handle. Um, I at least I wasn't raised with the Bible in this way. I didn't have AI or you know crazy tools like we do nowadays. So yes, uh, quote, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. Quote, end quote. Um, it's really, yeah, I can't say it any better. All right, so we'll move it on to humility and selflessness. Humility is a key component of healthy relationships. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. End quote. And that was Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Humility is a key component of healthy relationships. Ye, there, there's a lot of different ways to break down humility and how it can um, show up in our lives. Uh, at least the way I was kind of raised up, especially culturally, you're supposed to bury your feelings down. You're supposed to you know not show humility in the sense that it shows like a weakness, and that's just me. I'm not saying that's for everybody. So humility was a huge thing that I've had to work on, especially doing uh, something like this. But I'll tell you, it does bring joy to my life to be able to have humility and selflessness, which we'll get to. Uh, I am human. I'm not perfect. I do struggle still with humility and selflessness. Um, so that being said, yes, we do need to, and it'd be easier to explain this if I was speaking to people who were like more knowledgeable than even me within the Bible, right? Um, we just gotta accept that we're not perfect in a sense, and there's something bigger than us, and we can. All the information's right here in front of us. All the signs and wonders, in my opinion, my beliefs. Um, I think it's time to start. At least seeing what we can bring to a relationship to create healthy relationships. Because humility is within yourself. You can only control yourself and your actions. The Bible speaks upon dignity and things of that matter. Um, so with these, yeah, we'll go over to the quote again. Quote: "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." End quote. Um, yeah, and I believe in that. That's something, as I understand as a Christian. We have this information. We have this ability to sit down and learn these things. But not everybody in the world has the same freedom or ability. Maybe they're under someone's power and control, whatever it may be. They yeah. So we really gotta look into these things. I'm sure there's a million ways better to preach these kind of things, but again, if I'm retaining your attention, if I'm getting some sort of message across, then I'm happy. I'm doing something right. Um, all right, so selflessness. Love often requires putting often. Sorry. Love often requires putting others' needs before your own. Quote, "Do not merely look out of your own personal interest, but also for the interest of others." End quote. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Uh, Again, love often requires putting others' needs before your own. Not always, but often. Um, that's a hard one. To be selfless. The Bible preaches about rather for suffering for good doing rather than wrongdoing. There will be points in our lives where we can choose to be selfish or selfless. Um, in doing so, it may put you in a situation where you may suffer, or other people. Um, but out of love, you'll have to see how it applies and shows in your life, or maybe in that situation. There's a lot that goes into selflessness, and where sacrifices do lie within humility and selflessness. But the joy that does come from it, and the good. There's a reason it's in the Bible. Yeah, very very difficult topics. hopefully over time I'll find better ways to explain these things. So with communication and honesty, um, remember this is all for healthy relationships, right? We want to work on healthy relationships with each other and with God. Um, Without communication and honesty, healthy relationships are not possible. And we'll get more again into that in unhealthy relationships. And it's important that we know the difference between the two, um, so we can make the choices for ourselves. So, truthfulness, honesty builds trust in relationships. Quote, therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body, end quote. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25. So, honesty builds trust in relationships 100%. If I'm not honest with you, mm, it might take you a day to figure it out. It might take you a couple days or a week or a year. Um, Once you figure it out, I broke that trust, right? Now, there's different kinds of people. Some different people either forgive you or some just, you know, whatever. But the message here really lies within yourself because we're working on ourselves here. We're not, again, we can't control any other people's actions, or their beliefs or anything like that. You can only set an example. If you build trust within yourself, if you build yourself up, um, people will see you doing good and they'll want what you got. But what you got isn't something money can buy. So that's another thing is you gotta invest into yourself. Not only it's a very materialistic world. You gotta invest in yourself spiritually and learn these things. Not only from me, but get different opinions and beliefs. Uh, but understand there is 10 commandments in the Bible. If you're not familiar with them, study them. Get familiar with them. They're very real. They're ancient laws and they've been around for thousands of years for a reason. Because they work. They do, and they're good. Um, Quote, therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body, end quote. That one hits home for me because with with what I believe my gift, I truly used it for good, but I wasn't honest about who I believed I was, or I didn't. I shared the Bible. I did a lot of good things, and I am human. I made mistakes, but I would consider that to be some sort of falsehood. Yeah, I wasn't honest about who I was or what I believed. I believed in God. I believed in the Bible, um, but I was so afraid being judged, and there is real danger that comes with this. I will accept that. Speaking about certain topics or um, people, but I love God. I love the people, so I'm here to serve. I'm here to do the right thing. Um, yeah, we'll get more into that, but speak truthfully to your neighbor. That's there's some truth for me. Um, and we're all members of one body. I believe that's the body of Christ. The body of Christ is the church of the believers, the body of the believers. If you believe Christ died on the cross and died for your sins, um, rose to heaven, he was resurrected, all those beautiful, wonderful things. And I apologize if I'm not quoting it quote for quote. Um, I'm very new to all this, like getting into the preaching and whatnot. What I'm doing here is really trying to get the message across right now. Again, I highly recommend using ChatGPT or any likewise AI to study these things if you're interested. It's really there is a lot of cool history behind it. Uh, yeah. All right. Gentle communication. Communication should be loving and gentle. Quote, let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone, end quote. That was Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. Communication should be loving and gentle. I agree. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to communicate with someone, even just with love or gently. In today's world, um, it's very, very easy uh, to snap on people, um, just because we might have different beliefs or whatever it may be. But there's so much just conflict going on in everybody's lives. Like it seems like, at least maybe just where I'm from, you people, you watch my personal testimony. World's not in a good place right now. So that's something that I've definitely had to work on within myself. Being more loving and gentle within my communication, especially in a stream like this. Uh, if you know me, you know that um, I am a very loving and gentle person. I'm also very excitable, just out there kind of person. Um, yeah, so that's definitely one thing I've worked on within myself. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Um, always full of grace. What is grace? What is grace? That actually, I don't. I'm gonna put that in here. What is grace in the Bible? In the Bible, grace is a fundamental concept that refers to the unmerited favor and love of God toward humanity. It is a key theme in both the Old and New Testaments and is central to Christian understanding of salvation and the character of God. Um, Here are some different key aspects of grace as described in the Bible. So, unmerited favor, salvation. I believe salvation comes through grace, yes. Sorry, I'm trying to figure odds. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to explain what grace is because it's a lot of things. It's beautiful, beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful concept, beautiful, real thing. Um, yeah. So I'll touch on that as well before I end the stream today because it is very important that we have a better understanding of grace. Even me, because I there's a lot to it. There's still things that I am learning. Um, I do believe I know enough. I've been studying for 3 years, and could have been doing a lot more. I'll say that much. But I'm confident enough to the point where I can go and do something like this. Um, so we were at gentle communication. So always full of grace. Those will be topics we will go over. Um, seasoned with salt. That that is a um now I'm sure we've all had points in our lives where we wanted to tell someone the truth, um, but we knew the truth would hurt them. At least this is the way I'm explaining it right now for this certain one. Um, season was so there's a truth, but that truth would hurt someone. So we sugarcoat it. You know, we feed them some sort of like sweet white lie is what you would call it. Um, and in doing so, whether we know it or not, we're again not. This is just the way I'm seeing it right now. I don't know how it might apply to you in whatever situation, um, but it could end up doing more damage than just telling the truth to that person, the honest truth. Um, so seasoned with salt. When I say the truth, the truth hurts. It does hurt. Not all the time, but they are things that we have to accept that hurt, and we don't want to. And a lot of us spend our entire lives running from it, running from the truth. So the quicker we can accept the truth in life, um, and my final truth I really have had to, and I still have to accept completely. And I do accept it completely. There's just, and I believe it's in everybody. There's always just the seed of doubt that's been implanted in us, but it's for me. I I do believe again. The gifts that were given to me were true, and I do believe I have a conscious contact with God. So it's just it's fear. It's a fear of not wanting to be uncomfortable in scary situations. Um, but through Bible and the God, I have someone to lean on. I have God. Um, not someone we all have. We whether we know it or not. Um, so let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Um, yeah, we'll just leave it there. Um, encouragement and support. Encouragement. Supporting and encouraging others. Excuse me. Supporting and encouraging one another strengthens relationships. Quote, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. End quote. Um, First Colossians chapter 5 verse 11. Excuse me if I mispronounce that. I'm gonna drink some water real quick. All right. So supporting and encouraging one another, it strengthens relationships, yes. Um, that is something that I personally know a lot of people struggle with, is supporting and encouraging their significant other, or just anyone in their life. And it's not necessarily on purpose. Maybe it is in these instances, but what really matters is, and we'll get to it within health or healthy boundaries, as well as unhealthy boundaries. Uh, what really matters is, you need to again love yourself first to even have a healthy relationship, in my belief. Um, and there's a lot of different ways that shows up in different people's lives. So don't think that my life is the same as yours or yours is mine. Um, we do need to not only encourage and support one another, but understand that there's points where we will have to set boundaries to encourage a healthy relationship. Um, Now, I'll get more into that because there's a lot. But yes, supporting and encouraging one another strengthens relationships. I'll just leave it at that for now. Quote, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing, end quote. So in in the mastery of love, it as far as my understanding, it teaches you to be responsible for your own happiness. And when you're in a healthy relationship, that other person is also responsible for their own happiness, right? Um, so two different people who are being responsible for their own happiness, not saying my happiness is in your hands. Because when I put my happiness in your hands, I'm I'm essentially guaranteeing you to mess it up. You're gonna do something at one point to upset me, because you're not in my brain. You don't know exactly what I want in that moment, or you know maybe I wanted your attention, but you were happy doing something else, and that hurt me, or whatever it may be. We need to understand that we are responsible for our own happiness. Now that brings us back to supporting and encouraging one another, and this is in a healthy relationship, right? uh, I've come from a lifetime where I've seen different types of relationships, mainly unhealthy ones. So this is more new to me. So yeah, if if you're building yourself up at that point, right, you're responsible for your own happiness. Then I think would be a good point in your life, where you can encourage another. Um, yeah, we'll leave it at that. So, commitment and faithfulness. Faithfulness. Loyalty and faithfulness are essential in relationships. Let love and faithfulness never leave you, semicolon, or I bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart, end quote. I'm going to read that again. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. End quote. Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 3. So loyalty and faithfulness are essential in relationships. This is pretty obvious. I don't. I'll start with, if we had the same loyalty and faith in an essential relationship with God as we did with another person, that is a good sign of a healthy relationship. Um, Quote, let love and faithfulness never leave you. No matter what, no matter sorry. So let love and faithfulness never leave you. So I'm going to speak on that. No matter what someone may have done to you in your life or have hurt you in a relationship, maybe they cheated on you or something. Don't let that take away from who you are. Um, you know, and that's things we're learning now, right? Certain things to look out for, red flags, whatnot, healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships. But you got to learn these kinds of things because if you don't, there's bad things are bound to happen if you don't know how to protect yourself. Um, yeah. So, uh, bind them around your neck and write them on the tablet of your heart. Yeah. End quote. So, patience and kindness. Um, Patience and kindness, these are fundamental qualities of love. Quote, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, end quote. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4. Um, yeah, just have patience and kindness for one another as you would yourself. Peacemaking, striving for peace, uh, peacemaking, striving for peace, it helps maintain harmony. Um, quote, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God, end quote. If you believe in the Bible, if you believe in Jesus, we're all children of God. We're all called to be peacemakers. We're not called upon to do these horrible, nasty things that are happening in this world. Yeah, it's time for peace, man. I'm calling for peace. I think a lot of people would agree with me. There's too much conflict in this world. There's too much real dangers for us to ignore anymore. And I say this because I've noticed a lot of people um, on the internet or in person. They just really just in their own bubble, and a lot of people they're woke and they study conspiracies and whatnot. But if you don't see the spiritual, like the we call it the demonic agenda behind the bad things going on in the world, or if you're not familiar with the better agenda, the Bible, uh, God, the good agenda. Well, it's there, it's happening. It's These are things that are just they're being hidden. So if this video reached you somehow, or this live stream, God bless. Um, Actually, want to see if it's even working still. Yeah, still on. Hello to my one viewer. Um, all right, so there there's a lot right there about healthy relationships in the Bible, each with different uh, references to scriptures. So I'll try to go slowly so you guys can pause it if you want to and look into it. Um, yeah, I'm gonna step aside real quick actually. Let me see if I can get this in one. Alright. Might be hard to read, but it's there for now. I'll be right back. Oops. All right. Um, I am back. Thanks for watching still. So, now that we have discussed a little bit about healthy relationships, it is time to talk about some unhealthy relationships within the Bible. So, the Bible also addresses the characteristics of unhealthy relationships and provides guidance on how to deal with them. Here are some key teachings. Toxic behaviors, dishonesty, lying, and deceit are detrimental to relationships. Quote, do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices. End quote. Colossians chapter 3, verse 9. So, lying and deceit are detrimental to relationships. Simple enough, but the issue, it really, whether it lies within us or within the other person, and again, whoever may be watching this video, this is about you. This isn't about. I'm not here to speak about whoever may be in your life, in the sense that we can only reflect on ourselves and our actions and control our actions. We if we reflected on whatever other person may have done, it really won't get us anywhere other than, yes, there are certain instances where we can learn from those aspects. But we'll get more into it, right? This is the whole point of coming to Christianity, coming to God. And as it says right here, do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices. Humans and our sinful nature, we're just that's a part of us. It's where we lie and we're deceitful. Um, yeah, we can't. Sorry, I have a piece of lip skin. Um, Kind of weird for the stream. Sorry, guys. Uh, we can battle lying and deceit with humility and selflessness and honesty. Um, the most important part is we accept the dishonesty within ourselves so we can become a better person, an honest person. That's really what it's trying to teach here. It's not trying to beat you up or make you feel bad. Um, it's really, again, when I say it's not our fault, I mean it in by our sinful nature. We are responsible for our actions and what we have done, which is, why we can be dishonest and we can lie, we can be deceitful, um, especially in relationships. So that's something I believe a lot of people need to start being honest with themselves, and accepting honesty within themselves. If you don't believe me, again, I'm asking you to believe in the Bible and believe in God, believe in Jesus, and all the wonderful things that comes along with it. So, gossip and slander. Um, Speaking negatively about others harms relationships. Quote, a perverse person stirs up conflicts and gossip separates close friends. End quote. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28. Um, Speaking negatively about others harms relationships. That, again, these are all very, very, very obvious things, and even had people say to me, yeah, well, I know that it's obvious, but I can still do it. Just, and it just, and again, it's obvious. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. Um, and yeah, you may get away with it, whatever it may be, for however many times, maybe indefinitely. Um, but it doesn't make it the right thing to do. It's disobedient to God. Uh, and in my beliefs, it's just not good. If you're not being obedient to God, it's not being good. You're not being good, and you got to come to repentance and do better. Do your best. That's all you can really do. So, just again, these are, especially once you start learning about this kind of stuff. You might even notice it getting worse because you're starting to identify these things, and it may lead to more conflict within yourself, and within other people, and that's just a huge part of why Christianity and Catholics, just everything with religion as a whole, has caused a lot of division, within families, such as my intentions here, right? I'm merely trying to provide a biblically accurate, um, I guess, class on healthy relationships and boundaries, as well as being able to identify the difference, discern the difference. Yet, my intentions here are genuine, they're good. Um, this will lead to division between families, between friends. It'll lead to conflict. What a terrible thing, right? So don't take it from me. Take it as you see it. But you know, don't shoot the messenger, right? um, yeah. So speaking negatively about others harms relationships. I'm sure you wouldn't want people speaking negatively about you, especially if you've done your best. Um, so yeah, if you wanna avoid an unhealthy relationship, avoid gossip and slander. And I'll read the quote one more time. Quote: "A perverse person stirs up conflict, and gossip separates close friends." End quote. Um, Perverse person stirs up conflict. Now, what is it to be perverse? There's a lot of things to be. I'll actually just I'll type it. What is a in the Bible? Okay, so don't take it from me, right? I'm not trying to call anybody out here or anything. Merely just trying to, yeah, just yeah, the message. So in the Bible, a perverse person is someone who deliberately chooses to act contrary to what is right, good, and moral according to God's standards. This concept is often associated with behaviors and attitudes that are twisted, corrupt, and deviant from the path of righteous. Here are some key characteristics and biblical references that describe a perverse person. Semicolon. Alright, I just want to make sure this is still working. Okay. Moral characteristics of a perverse person. Moral corruption. Number one, moral corruption. A perverse person is morally corrupt and engages in wicked behaviors. Quote, the integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. End quote. That was Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3. Um, the perverse person is morally corrupt and engages in wicked behaviors. Those you will have to there. I could speak for hours and hours and hours upon all the negative, just not so good side of human behaviors and beliefs and everything. So I want to be thoughtful about this as possible while not feeding too much into it, because we do have to understand that um, yes, these things are there. These things are real. Um, but we can move on from them. And from as far as my understanding, God, especially like in the reference to Mount Sodom and Gomorrah, when the lady was told not to look back, and she did, and she like turned to stone. God doesn't want us looking back on all these really mean, nasty areas of our lives. As long as we can learn from it, and in our lives we can come to repentance, maybe, um, whatever it may be, however it is in your life. Yeah, so just I don't want to get too much into like what is morally corrupt and wicked behaviors. These are all things you can look into on your own if you're really that interested. Because there's been a lot of corrupt and wicked behaviors, especially within the history of the Bible. So that being said, again, quote, the integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity, end quote. Um, I'll just leave it at that. Dishonesty and deceit. They are often dishonest and deceitful, spreading lies and misleading others. Quote, a perverse person stirs up conflict, and gossip separates close friends, end quote. Um, I believe we went over that already in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28. So, rejection of wisdom and discipline. They reject wisdom and discipline, choosing folly instead. Quote, the way of fools seem right to them, but the wise listen to advice. End quote. What it's and what is folly? It is folly is a term used to describe foolishness or lack of good sense and judgment, often in moral and spiritual contexts in the Bible. So it's frequently contrasted with wisdom and associated with behavior that is reckless, irresponsible, and contrary to the teachings and commands of God. Here are some. Okay, so as you can see, you can go deep. You can go very very deep down this rabbit hole. Um, my goal here is to at least retain your attention long enough to get you interested, and sow a seed of faith. So yeah, um, they reject wisdom and discipline, choosing folly instead. Wisdom and discipline; those are those two right there. It's very easy, very comfortable to live without wisdom and discipline. Again, however it may show in your life, to be wise, you have to be disciplined. I'll just say that much. So the way of the fools seem right to them, but the wise listen to advice. The way of fools seem right to them, and he's referring to the perverse. So the way of the fools is essentially it's the way of the fools, right? Um, the Bible speaks in so many metaphors that let me see if maybe this one refers to something specifically, because I believe it does. So the way of the fools in the Bible refers to the path or behavior characterized by folly, foolishness, and a lack of wisdom. This way is marked by a series of poor choices, ignorance of God's commands, and actions that lead to negative consequences. The Bible provides numerous insights and warnings about the way of the fools, emphasizing the importance of wisdom and the dangers of foolish living. Um, so, ignoring wisdom and instruction, moral and spiritual blindness, reckless and hasty actions, destructive speech, pride and arrogance, and pride. Pride we'll get into later on in this series. Pride. God says to live without pride. Um, and there's a reason for that, and I understand with the whole LGBT community, like that's their message and logo. Um, so I guess to you guys right now, and I say this with love, it, it I said, yeah, I don't really know how to say it in a way that can make both sides happy. Pride, us living with pride does not make God happy. The ones of us living with pride, it makes us happy. There's the point right there. And I don't mean this as I'm not calling anybody anything. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. This is just how it is in the Bible. Okay, so it's these are truths that do need to be talked about because people are getting hurt. They are being misled, and especially people following the way of fools. First people, I definitely see a lot of them ignoring wisdom and instruction, moral. You have moral and spiritual blindness. They are reckless and they have hasty actions, destructive speech, and there's a lot of pride and arrogance. And I'm not referring to one specific community. I'm just referring to people as a whole. Um, So, the consequences of the way of fools: ruin and destruction, strife and conflict, lack of peace and joy. I, I think it's safe to say that if you've been living in the way of fools, you've seen one of these three things, if not all of them, show up in your life, and maybe you ask God why, rather than what can I learn from this? What can I apply? What, start asking what, because God, you know, he already kind of told you why, but we don't take the time to look into the Bible. We don't, not all of us, especially me, even with my gift. There's a lot of things I could do still within studying the Bible, and there's a million more things I could do better, but I'm not perfect, and that's something I had to accept to myself to even begin to love myself. That again, I'm not made perfect, and there's something bigger than me. So that being said, we are gonna move. Well, the warnings and advice: avoiding the way of the fool, seeking wisdom, living righteously. I'm gonna kind of skip over this stuff. We've gotten a little deep into there. Um, but as you can see, AI it's a wonderful, wonderful, just amazing tool to kind of lay this stuff out without even having to be like me, just as a person to study these things in a safe space, in a safe environment. Um, so where were we at? Okay, so we had just we're just exiting toxic behaviors. So gossip and slander. You can see how deep gossip and slander can really go in a very simple, short time. Within a few, there's a lot. Um, yeah, definitely look into it. Speaking negatively about others harms relationships. So everything we just talked about. Quote, a perverse person stirs up conflict and gossip separates close friends. Um, you need to learn the difference between a conversation and gossip. And that's something that's all, yeah. We'll get, yeah. Harmful actions, violence and abuse. Condemn The Bible condemns violence and abuse. Quote, do not envy the violent or choose any of their ways, end quote. The Bible condemns violence and abuse. I myself am guilty of both, and I will say it. I won't sugarcoat it, and I'll lay it out there a with season of salt. Yeah, I have a history. Uh, do I want to share it publicly? No. Is it out there for the public? Just as with any gossip and slander, yeah, it's out there. There's negative parts in my life. There really is. So when I come on here with humility, I truly am coming with honesty, and I'm really in the way of a sense as I'm trying to foster the community of faith. I'm trying to show here that um, even the worst of people, even the worst, I really believe myself to be I was low, not a murderer or anything, but that it wouldn't have made me any better, or worse. There's a lot of things a lot of people have done, and they're just afraid to face them or even talk about them, even in their mind to God. So I hope at least I can inspire people to open themselves up in their hearts to God, and God, He, if you pray to Him, He will open your heart. He will give you a new heart. There's some scripture about it. Um, so yeah, that's violence and abuse. It hurts people. Um, Now it says, "Do not envy." I'm not familiar with that word. Envy in the Bible. Envy in the Bible is viewed as a destructive and sinful emotion that leads to discord, resentment, and a host of other negative behaviors. Uh, the Bible addresses envy in numerous passages, warning believers about its dangers and encouraging them to cultivate contentment, gratitude, and love instead. Here are some key aspects and biblical references related to envy. So, definition and characteristics of envy. One, desire for others' possessions or status. Envy involves wanting what someone else has, whether it's their possessions, status, success, or relationships. Quote, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones, end quote. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 30. Um, I believe that's also a commandment, or it relates also to one, the thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife or possessions. Um, Resentment and bitterness. It often leads to feelings of resentment and bitterness towards those who are perceived to be more fortunate. Quote, for where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice, end quote. James chapter 3, verse 16. So envy, it'll lead to desire for others' possessions or status. It leads to resentment and bitterness. There's some biblical examples of envy. Cain envied his brother Abel because God favored Abel's offering over his own, leading to the first murder. So just because this guy envied the fact that God had, favored Abel's I forget what the offering was. I believe it was a sacrifice. Um, he killed his brother, and he left him out in the field. And Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed them. End quote. Genesis chapter 4, verse 8. So I believe he left him out there, but later on in this series, I will be starting from the beginning to the end of the Bible, using Bible.com most likely. Um, there's a lot to go over in there. The history is important, so I don't want to skip like a whole bunch of key details, but I will even admit myself, it is a lot, and I'll do my best. So there's examples of envy in the Bible. There's consequences of envy, destruction of relationships. Envy can destroy relationships and lead to conflict. A tranquil heart. Um, Quote, a tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bone. Oh, I already read that. That was Proverbs. Makes the bones rot. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 30. Um, Spiritual moral decay. It leads to spiritual moral decay, resulting in sinful behaviors. Quote, for where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice, end quote. And that was James chapter 13, verse 16. Personal misery. Envy creates personal misery and dissatisfaction, preventing individuals from experiencing peace and contentment. Quote, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn, live in harmony with one another, do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position, do not be conceited, quote. And that was Romans chapter 12, 15 to 16. So there's a lot of consequences of living with envy. As with any human emotion, it is human. It is normal to have feelings and stuff like that, right? And no one's perfect. We're born sinful in nature, so what we can do is we can do our best. So, warnings and advice against envy. Avoiding envy. Believers are advised to avoid envy and focus on their own blessings. Let us not become conceited. Sorry. Quote, let us not become conceited, provoking and envying each other. End quote. Galatians chapter 5, verse 26. Two, contentment. Cultivating contentment and gratitude helps counteract envy. Quote, but godliness with it, but with godliness with contentment is great gain. Quote. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. So cultivating contentment, that's important. Cultivating contentment and gratitude helps counteract envy. Cultivating contentment and gratitude helps counteract envy. But godliness, sorry, with quote, but godliness with contentment is great gain, end quote. First Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. So to be content within the Bible, right? To be content, at least to me, um, yeah, it definitely involves gratitude. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for everything He's done for me when He didn't have to do anything. Um, and that's something I think a lot of people may have missed in their life as well. Um, God owes us nothing. We are essentially in His debt. Don't quote me on that. Get more into God and just how much He's actually done for us, and how little this world appreciates Him right now. Um, so yeah, number three, love and this is warnings and advice against envy again. Number three, love and compassion. Love, which does not envy, should be guiding principle in relationships. Quote, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Quote, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4. Um, Lord, which does not envy, should be guiding principle in relationships. Sorry, love. Love, which does not envy, should be the guiding principle in relationships. Love, love doesn't envy, right? Um, love is faith, and to have a healthy relationship, you need to be able to have faith in the other person, to be able to love the person. I have faith that you're going to be as faithful to me as I am to you, um, and as loyal. So love and compassion is it's a beautiful thing. I wish we had more of it. So overcoming envy, seeking God's guidance, focusing on eternal values, practicing generosity and humility. Envy, according to the Bible, is a harmful and sinful emotion that leads to various negative consequences. By cultivating contentment, gratitude, love, and humility, believers can overcome envy and foster healthier, more fulfilling relationships with others and with God. Um, so maybe, and that's actually a huge message to share here. If something I personally say on here upsets you, or my history. Just know that I truly am repenting and I am doing my best to do better. I'm not perfect. Um, with that being said, I do my best as well to not live with envy. There's been many who have trespassed against me, as well as many that have trespassed, that I have trespassed against. Just no excuse. I love the fact that I can do something like this where I can kind of break down my beliefs and no, we can just come together and study the Word of God. Um, this is for all of humanity here. Like I wish everybody had Jesus. So we have gone over a lot just within these three little excerpts right here, right? You see how quick it was to go over healthy relationships. It seems very simple, very straightforward, things that you already know, things that you may already practice, but as you can see, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in a sinful world, right? In a perfect world, we wouldn't have any of this. Um, I personally, it's been an hour and 20 minutes now, and I'm still on this first page. So I'm gonna scroll it out a little bit. If anyone is interested, I'm going to. Oh, that is way too small. We'll leave it at here. I'm gonna take another little break. After this, we'll be going over the principles in the mastery of love, and then some healthy boundaries as well as unhealthy boundaries. Now, this is gonna be a long video, so I don't expect people to watch this all in one go. Especially with the way I have this all laid out. This is more like a podcast or something. I have my Class A CDL, so this is stuff like I guess I would be interested in if I was when I was driving. Uh, um, yeah. So go ahead and take a break if you're watching. Um, and yeah, I'll be right back. All right. Um. So I guess it's good if I just touch up on these real quick, and then we'll hop over to mastery of love. So violence and abuse, we left off there. Do not envy, quote, do not envy the violent or choose any of their ways, quote, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. Um, Unforgiveness, holding grudges, and refusing to forgive can destroy relationships. Quote, bear with each other and, sorry, excuse me, I said peanut butter jelly sandwich. Um, Quote, bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Quote, Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. Um, I think we maybe not all of us, can't say for sure, but I have a good hint that every single person on this planet at one point in their life, if not right now, is holding a grudge and is refusing to forgive it. Whether it be with a family member or a friend or a stranger or coworker, someone in your community, whoever it may be in your life, if you it's disobedient to God. Quote, bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. End quote. Again, that was Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. Um, Forgiveness and mercy are God's ultimate weapons, and you would be absolutely amazed at just how effective they really can be in real life situations. Not only in my life, but in your life and in everybody's lives. So, forgiving is huge, very, very huge part of Christianity. Um, just like Jesus said, uh, don't quote me on this. It's by memory, and I might get it. Um, Jesus said, "Be the first of you who has not sinned, or the first of you who has not sinned, be the first to throw a stone at her." And that was the woman who had committed adultery. Um, we're all guilty of something, of whatever it may be. Okay, we've all received mercy and forgiveness, whether you believe in God or not. He does work in your life. He is there. You know, maybe you really are a good person. I've met a lot of good atheists and agnostic people. Um, Even myself, I considered myself to be agnostic, raised up Christian when before this had all happened and I hadn't turned back to God. But I did a lot of good things. I had my own issues, but I was a good person in my own beliefs. But I didn't have God. I didn't have something bigger than me in my life. And that all just shows up within, you know, everything we'll talk about here. These are things you'll notice from your childhood, from people around you, whether it was a teacher. There's been so many people who have been misled for so long. This world's not perfect. This it's I'm bringing all of this up so we can acknowledge that it's there, so that we can accept it, whether it's you know us or in our lives or people around us, right? But we have to be able to forgive. We got to be able to focus on the spirit of ourself, the positive spirit, So if we're always just looking on the unhealthy part of the relationship, we'll never be able to look at the healthy part, right? We'll never be able to look at love and respect, forgiveness, humility and selflessness, communication and honesty, encouragement and support, commitment, faithfulness, patience and kindness, and peacemaking. Like those are wonderful things that are some there's a bit of a struggle to maintain if you're not doing if you're doing it. It's a bit of a struggle to maintain any of these things if you're doing any of these things, these bad things. So negative attitudes, pride and arrogance. Pride can lead to conflict and division. Quote, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom, end quote. And that was Proverbs chapter 11, verse 2. So this seems a little unempathetic here, and I know a lot of people have used like Bible scriptures and stuff against the LGBT community. Um, again, don't let people be the ones to influence you. Let God. Okay, I'll leave it at that. People aren't perfect. I do believe people aren't demons. I believe people can be influenced or even like possessed, or manifested within, whether they're even aware of it or not. Like I believe we're in end times, and this is a very scary place to be in our life right now. But God tells us, do not be afraid. So it's sinful for me to be afraid. Um, I have to acknowledge that. So whenever I'm feeling afraid, I'm being disobedient to God, and I have to give it to God. Whatever it may be in my life or your life. So again, if I ask God why I'm afraid, the answer is already there. Now I need to ask him, what do I do with that fear? What can I healthily apply this to, right? Because there's a difference between fear and healthy fear, or like a rational fear and a healthy fear. Um, we need to be focusing on the healthy fear of God, because especially in throughout history, it's with anything, if humans don't understand it, we perceive it as a threat because at least by science, we were built upon these like caveman brains that were, fight or flight, right? Um, we tend to jump the gun and act upon an irrational fear rather than a healthy fear. And from what I understand, God doesn't want us acting out of fear at all. He wants us acting out of love, love for one another. Now I would say it's become pretty impossible nowadays, because you don't know just where anybody is at in their life anymore. You don't know who you can trust. It's gotten so bad. Um, I mean, I don't know much about the whole like Trump situation and his relationship to all of his security and everything, but I mean, it's really hard for me to imagine some 20-year-old kid climbing up on a roof in front of thousands of people, police, security guards, Secret Service, news agents, people pointing at him, recording him, yelling. Poor Trump. Like, I don't even think he knew. I think people were just so baffled by it. Like, part of me wonders, like, maybe did he even freaking see the dude, or is he was so focused on whatever else. But anyways, that's religion and politics, right? It's bringing me away from the main point here of healthy boundaries and yeah. So we, I don't even know how the heck I got there. Pride, pride and arrogance. Pride can lead to conflict and division. I think to better understand this, we need to better understand what God believes pride to be. So, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. When pride. What is pride in the Bible? In the Bible, pride is often depicted as a sinful and destructive attitude characterized by an inflated sense of self importance, arrogance, and a lack of humility. It is frequently associated with a disregard for God and others, leading to various negative consequences. Here are some key aspects of. Here are some key aspects and biblical references related to pride. So, definitions and characteristics of pride. Self exhaustion. Pride involves elevating oneself above others and even above God. Quote, your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth and made a spectacle of you before kings. Quote, Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 17. Um, if you're interested in that one, you can look a little bit more into it. Uh, Number two, arrogance and haughtiness is marked by arrogance and it is marked by arrogance, a haughty spirit, and a sense of superiority. Quote, the Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. Quote, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 5. Um, so that's a warning right there. It it says the Lord detests all the proud of heart. Okay, not one, not many. It's all. So if we're living with pride in our heart, He detests us. So and then it goes on to say, "Be sure of this; they will not go unpunished." Um, Now He's saying people living with pride in their heart are going to be punished. Okay, I'm not going to go super deep into what that all means. The message here is really what matters. Is that it's pride. As you there's a common recurring theme in the Bible, and it's God detesting pride. So it's just we'll just leave it at that. So arrogance and haughtiness. Number three, disregard for God. Pride often leads to a rejection or disregard of God's authority and commandments. Quote, in his pride, the wicked man does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. Quote, Psalm chapter 10, verse 4. So this actually kind of hits home for me. It says, in his quote, in his pride, the wicked man does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. End quote. I've definitely met some people where they they honestly, I believe them to be good people, but they had just got so deep into their hatred of God. Um, it made them like just like wicked. Like it, I see a good person I see a good person in them, but what they say and they believe is just like, I wouldn't say that about anybody. But you're over it, so it kind of hits home for me in the sense that maybe there's no room in his thoughts for God because he's just maybe there's a demon influencing them or in them, or maybe they just don't want God. But from what I understand about God and like spirituality and like demons and stuff, the further away you are from God, the easier it is for um, you to be influenced or things like that. So I'm not saying people are demons. I'm not saying people in that community or things like that. Not trying to be a homophobe or anything. It's just I'm trying to explain this in a way that I can relate to and share on on like a personal account. So I do not mean any of this with I mean it all with love. So we'll leave it there. Just disregard for God. Biblical examples of pride: Lucifer's fall. Paul. Lucifer's fall. Uh, can I even can I make it say that? This guy is humbling. Nebuchadnezzar's humbling. Ne- Nebuchadnezzar's humbling. He was a king of Babylon, and he was humbled by God because of his pride. So, quote, the words are still on his lips when a voice came from heaven. This is what is decreed for you, King uh, Nebuchadnezzar. Your royal authority has been taken from you. You will be driven away from people and will live with the wild animals. You will eat grass like the ox. 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign over kingdoms of men and gives them to anyone he wishes. Quote. Now it's Daniel chapter 4, verse 31 through 32. Um, there's a lot of examples. Pharaoh's hardened heart, Pharaoh's pride and refusal to humble himself before God led to his downfall. Quote, but when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he had hardened his heart and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, which was his brother, uh, just as the Lord had said. Sorry, let me read that quote again. Quote, but when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he had hardened his heart and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. Quote, in Exodus chapter 8, verse 15. Aaron was his brother, Moses' brother. So there's just a lot of examples in human history of whether it's pharaohs or you know entire societies, whatever. Like pride really does a number on people and entities and just a lot. So we're just gonna come to this right here: overcoming pride. Again, with anything, number one is repentance. Turning away from pride and repenting is essential. Quote, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will hear, sorry, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. End quote. Second Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. Um, God forgives everyone for everything. The only unforgivable sin is to blaspheme against God. And if you turn back to God and you believe in Him, right? Because to blaspheme against God is essentially to say He's not real. Um, you start believing in him, he'll forgive you. He will. It's the unforgivable sins technically forgivable, in my understanding, in the sense that if I say something's not real, and then I start getting mad at it and talking to it, and and start having some faith that it's real, even though I'm so mad at it, maybe it's just having just that enough patience with me to give me enough time to come to repentance and to see just where I'm at in my life, where my relationship with God is. I don't know. I don't really know what ways to explain this, so I'll keep doing my best. Number two, prayer and dependence on God. Relying on God and seeking His guidance helps maintain humility. Quote, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. End quote. Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Um, we need to have humility. We are, man, there's a lot. It comes with pride. There's a lot. Yeah. Trust, quote, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Quote. Or excuse me, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. 3. Learning from Jesus. Jesus serves as the ultimate example of humility. Quote, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Quote, Matthew 11:29. Matthew chapter 11, verse 29. So, learning from Jesus. There's one man that I love the most. It's Jesus. Um, let's have some humility for Jesus. Pride, as depicted in the Bible, is a dangerous and sinful attitude that leads to separation from God, personal downfall, and various negative consequences. The Bible urges believers to cultivate humility, recognize their dependence on God, and serve others to avoid the pitfalls of pride. Alright, so as you can see, there is. My voice is starting to crack. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into pride. Um, So we've spoken about pride, we've spoken about envy, we have spoken about a lot of things today. Um, where am I at? Where am I at? Okay. Well, let's see. How long has this been going? Almost 2 hours. I will go over one last thing with the mastery of love, and I'm gonna get off for today. Tomorrow we will go over healthy boundaries, unhealthy boundaries. I didn't think this was gonna take as long as it has today, which I guess is a good thing. Um, there is a lot that goes into healthy relationships, as you can see. We haven't even started on boundaries. Um, you can't have a healthy relationship without healthy boundaries. We're halfway there, ish. Uh, at least what I'm trying to get at with this whole thing right now. So yeah, mastery of love and its principles. So the mastery of love is ancient Toltec knowledge. There is the four. Gosh, I forget what it's called. The four. It's like the four rules or something. Basically, it breaks down into four different things. We have awareness, which is to recognize and understand fear based beliefs, transformation, change fear based beliefs into love based beliefs, forgiveness, let go of past hurts and forgive yourself and others, and unconditional love, practice self love and love others without conditions. Now, unconditional love is very important and it's something God gives us, but His love is not our, that kind of, I'm not too sure about what I said actually. But if I said it, I said it, and it sounded kind of right. Um, Unconditional love within humans it's something that I don't really understand because pretty much all the love I've ever known came with conditions. The only love I don't is God because He accepts me for who I am. I was born this as just human, a simple human. No matter how good of a person I want to be or believe I am, I'll never be perfect. Um, and I can love myself now. So practice self love and love others without conditions. Um, Awareness, recognize and understand fear based beliefs. So it essentially, I'll just read it. Awareness is the first step towards transformation. It involves recognizing fear based beliefs that have been ingrained in us through societal conditioning, personal experiences, and upbringing. These beliefs often manifest as negative self talk, limiting beliefs, and destructive patterns in our relationships. Uh, by becoming aware of these fears, we can begin to understand their origins and how they affect our lives. So, the first step, right, is to be aware of the healthy fear and the irrational fears in your life. Um, I'll break it down to that. So, and when I say healthy fears and irrational, I'm speaking this from my Christian standpoint, um, at least my understanding. Healthy fear of God is being obedient to God, which I believe being obedient to God is being good. Irrational fears is pretty much everything else. So what we need to do as people is to identify the difference between what is being obedient to God and what is not, what is being disobedient. Um, at least that's how we can bring it back to the Bible. So beautiful, beautiful, just wonderful knowledge, just without God, right? I don't think there's a problem with people. I think people have been misled or just didn't have the right information or it wasn't available. For thousands of years, we didn't have all this crazy technology. At least we don't know of it. So transformation, change fear-based beliefs into love-based beliefs. Transformation is a process of changing our internal dialogue and belief system from one rooted in fear to one grounded in love. This involves challenging and reframing our negative beliefs. For instance, instead of believing I am not enough, uh, you can believe we can cultivate. Oh, sorry. Instead of believing I am not enough, we can cultivate the belief I am worthy of love and respect. This shift can lead to profound changes in how we interact with others and ourselves. So, in my own words, instead of believing I'll never I'll never make it on my own, or whatever negative fear-based belief you have in your life that's not within a healthy fear of God, which is being obedient to God. Um, Instead of being afraid of that, you can cultivate it by studying, by following the Word of God, by coming to faith. Um, Whether it be by watching me, or doing your own research and watching other people. There's a lot of wonderful, like there's so much information out there. It's amazing. Instead of cultivating all those ungodly fears, you can cultivate godly fears, which is being obedient to God. And you'll see as we go over what being obedient to God is throughout like the different videos and stuff. Um, it's not a scary thing. It's not hard. I mean, it is hard. It is hard. But it's not as hard as you think, and it gets easier the longer you do it. Um, and it gets more enjoyable. So that was a part of my transformation, was changing a lot of my ungodly fear-based beliefs, and even still now, over to fearing God and being obedient to Him and trusting that He has my best intentions in mind. He is all-knowing. He is a vengeful, wrathful, all-knowing, loving, merciful, forgiving God. Um, I am not. So when I want to react to something based out of fear, I give that to God, and I look to God for guidance. And there hasn't been a moment yet where He didn't give me an answer that you know it. I don't know. I love God. Like I strive to be like Him. I'm not God. We are made like God, and He calls us to be like Him. So that's all we can really do here, is do our best. So this shift can lead to profound changes in how we interact with ourselves and others. Now, when we stop cultivating those ungodly fear-based beliefs, and we start replacing them with love-based beliefs, which for me is everything I just said. um, it's allowed me to interact with not only myself but with others with love, right? um, and there's a lot more that goes into that, but I hope that gets the message across somewhat. So yeah, there's awareness, there's transformation, um, mastery of love. There's something else. Maybe it was there's the four rules. Maybe the four agreements is what I'm thinking. Um, okay, so there is another book that I'll go over tomorrow. It's called The Four Agreements. We'll we'll see how that applies within the Bible. I'm not trying to add anything or take anything away. I'm just merely going over what knowledge has helped me to build my faith, and self. Sorry. So forgiveness, let go of past hurts, and forgive yourself and others. Forgiveness is essential for healing and moving forward. Holding on to past hurts and grievances keep us anchored in pain and prevents us from experiencing true peace and happiness. Forgiving ourselves and others releases us from the chains of the past and opens the doors to healing. It is not about condoning harmful behavior, but rather freeing ourselves from the emotional burden. So that's powerful. That's really, really powerful right there. Um, Again, forgiveness in the Bible. I actually have that highlighter tool. Um, Forgiveness in the Bible, right? We we give our anger to God. When I forgive someone, I'm taking away my ability to hurt them back, and I'm giving it to God, because I trust that he's all knowing. He's gonna do the right thing, because I know I don't all the time. I know I make mistakes, and as a loving Christian, I treat everybody as I would myself. So I would forgive that person the same as they would forgive me, if that makes sense. As that I'd want them to forgive me. So it's not about condoning the harmful behavior, because we have to understand. Again, we are in a sinful world. There there's been so much conflict and just misinformation and misleading and demonic agendas, whatever you want to blame it on. Okay, um, but in reality, we need to stop looking at other people's, and it calls it trash in the book. We need to stop looking at other people's problems and what they've done and just start looking at ourselves. Um, so when I don't condone that harmful behavior, I'm freeing myself from the emotional burden that if I hurt them back now, I'm bringing myself down to their level. Um, and if this is stuff we learn when we're kids, man. But I see people who are 60, 70, 80 still struggling with that. And I'm like, how did you get through a whole lifetime? Sorry. Um, and it's not even that, just it sucks because I believe they're good people, they're just misled. They didn't have the best role models, maybe. I don't know. I don't know their life, so I can't judge them. I know I'm not perfect myself. Um, so that's forgiveness is huge. Um, Unconditional love. Practice self love and love others without conditions. Unconditional love starts with self love. When we truly love and accept ourselves, we are able to extend that love to others without conditions or expectations. This means by this means loving others for who they are, not what they do or how they meet our needs. Practicing unconditional love fosters deeper connections and a more compassionate world. So, incorporating these principles into your life, excuse me, they can lead to profound personal growth and more harmonious relationships. Um, the journey towards mastering love is continuous. It's requiring dedication and practice, but it is incredibly rewarding. So actually, I really like that there. Let me highlight that as well. The journey towards mastering love is continuous, requiring dedication and practice, but it is incredibly rewarding. So let's think about that in almost like a biblical aspect, right? Love is faith, faith is love. So the journey towards mastering faith is continuous, requiring dedication and practice, but it is incredibly rewarding. Um, Things that align with the Bible, but it's not the Bible, right? A lot of people they don't want to believe that there's something paranormal, if you want to call it, or something out of this realm. But it's definitely real. We do have to acknowledge it. You can't run or hide from it. You're gonna have to face your fears eventually. So it's time to replace those fear-based beliefs with love-based beliefs, and then you will be able to forgive yourself and others, and you will be able to work on your journey towards mastering faith. But it requires dedication and practice, but it is incredibly rewarding. So I think that was pretty good right there. I'll give it to God. Thank you, God. Uh, if you enjoyed my stream today, or if you're watching this as a video, um, thanks for watching. This really meant a lot to me today to go over some of the principles of healthy relationships, and we didn't even get to touch on boundaries much today, but there's always tomorrow. So anyways, see you tomorrow or next time.